Hello and welcome back to Polkadot Decoded. Right now, in keeping in theme with Polkadot being a layer 0 multi-chain, we welcome Tyrone Pan, product manager at Bifrost. And Bifrost is a multi-chain middleware platform that allows developers to seamlessly deploy and use multiple blockchains at the same time. So here to talk about Bifrost, Tyrone, take it away.
Hello, host, and greeting, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tyrone from Bifrost Finance. I'm very glad to say thank you for voting me as a speaker in this biggest event, Polkadot, each year. And today I'm gonna share with you some novel ideas about recent hotspot topic, incoming Kusama slot auction, and what's Bifrost's new ideas on it. So let's take a first step on this ecosystem chart of Bifrost. Bifrost is a substrate-based DeFi protocol to provide liquidity for pledged assets such as staking derivatives in different post blockchains to achieve value aggregation among different ecosystems on Polkadot. We've launched the derivative V token for staking and Polkadot Parachains slot auction, which is SALP. It's our topic today, which is the slot auction liquidity protocol. In addition, Bifrost has been awarded a Web3 Foundation grant, and we've also an early member of Web3 Bootcamp and Substrate Builders program. Recently, community and projects are all expecting the launching of Kusama Parachains slot auction. And on the yesterday's Polkadot Decoded main stage, Party gave us a list about what's happening next, and the Kusama Parachain is about to live soon. We are all looking forward to the evolution of Shell Chain to State Mint, and projects Parachains will coming up next. I have to say that the exciting moment comes earlier than I expected. And today is a big day to talk about crop loan and slot auction. What Bifrost will do is to release the liquidity of Parachain bounding after the crop loan. So let us review about crop loan in a few seconds. So here is, I extracted an impressive paragraph from Polkadot's official article, obtaining a Parachain slot on Polkadot demonstrates that many DOT holders may want different utility options than staking can provide. Thus, it's natural that DOT holders would want to loan their DOT to projects who require DOT for a bound in exchange for some consideration. From this paragraph, we can find out two main purposes of the crowd loan. First, it helps projects get supported from the community to beat the auction, and in exchange to provide some benefit for DOT holders who loan their DOT. Second, DOT gives more utility than staking. So this passive inspired us have more thoughts on the beneficial function for different characters in the ecosystem. The brilliant design of crowd loan is that it can easily connect different characters and promote a positive relationship among them. If we take a look on this triangle, we can see a healthy circle based on the crowd loan promotion because it's not easy for projects to get Parachain by themselves. So crowd loan is the core to push projects accumulate their intrinsic value at the beginning in order to attract bounding for the crowd loan in the future after a long journey. Once the Parachain bait just a beginning to the ecosystem development, if they want to build a marvelous project, this circle will be definitely repeated again. For participants, they will decide whether they will loan their DOT or not. It depends on the game of they might get potentially high reward than staking from Parachain, who might win the auction, or they have to face the bounding market during the bounding period. Moreover, they were considering about the long-term development of the project, or the project may not doing as well as they expected, right? So they cannot move their underlying assets during the bounding period. That's the big problem, what we are talking about today. So now let's brainstorming about what if bounding with liquidity, which means contributors can transfer their Parachain bounding as a derivative token at any time. We roughly derive 3 characters in the ecosystem performance during the bounding period. And they will even have the opportunity to get the Parachain crowd loan reward that they might miss the project crowd loan. That's very interesting. These 2 changes will directly induce more utility for DOT and Kusama by building a derivative market up and on the bounding assets. The derivative market will also stimulate the competition between Parachains to accumulate more value for whole ecosystem by boosting the new creative ideas on the new utility or compound of derivatives. This triangle will be enhanced by the bounding liquidity, absolutely. So what Bifrost is doing here is to release contributors bounding liquidity in crowd loan by generating derivatives, which we call it SALP or SALP Liquidity Protocol. Now it's time to see the shape of it. Here's the principle of SALP. On the duration of the crowd loan, each contributed token through Bifrost SALP will be separated to 2 derivatives, as you see. One is VS token. It represents the utility feature of the original token. And the other one is VS bound, which represents the equity feature to receive the Parachain reverse, and it record the Parachain lease period. They will be available on transaction when Parachain lease period starts. The interesting point is that they are different tokens, but with the combination of them, the underlying token can be fully redeemed as well as unbounding action after the Parachain lease period. You might want to ask now, why we separate 2 derivatives for one? Well, Bifrost separate these 2 derivatives. With VS token, it can build an aggregative derivative market for all Parachain boundings with high liquidity. With VS bound, it can build a pending order market for Parachain reverse without liquidity. So, okay, here's the architecture of Bifrost SALP. Bifrost achieved this protocol by building a VS token palette to create delegating account token and VS bound to contributors. The contributions found will be transferred automatically to the relay chain crowd loan account. After the Parachain lease period, bounding tokens will be unbounded back to the delegating account, and contributors can redeem their underlying assets and destroy the 2 derivatives, VS token and VS bound. Crowd loan quantity and incentive token and their retirement time. And if you click any of them, you will jump right into the corresponding project website. Contributors can easily compare different Parachains and contribute to their favorite project through this app. And the next page is redemption and derivative liquidity operation page. You can fully redeem your underlying token by destroying the corresponding number of VS token. and VS bound after the lease period, or swap VS token during the lease period. These curves mean the VS token price in Bifrost internal pool and external pool, which means the secondary market pool. With the fungible feature of VS token, it will have deeply liquidity on price support. Here is the VS bound market. This is what we are all expected. VS bound is a semi-fungible token. Yes, it's actually on the half of a fungible token and non-fungible token with Parachain reward. So you can trade VS bound as pending orders. You can easily on-shelf or off-shelf the bonds you have. You can clearly see the time of when Parachain will be retired, and you will know when you can fully redeem your underlying assets. So if you miss any Parachain reward when it's crop loan, now you have another chance to get it. I have to say the price of derivative is the most interesting point to establish a derivative market. You can see the different price of VS bound in this page for different parachains. It depends on the requirements of the parachain reward, which means how many people think the parachain might have stronger long-term value. Now, so let's discuss a little bit about the bounding derivative market. Okay. With the SALP, derivative market will be established. VS token as a utility token to release bounding liquidity. It has discount from the futures of bounding redemption and Parachain reward. If we look at this curve, it has high discount before the first Parachain lease period retired, but discount rate will going down by the passing time that approaching to unbounding time. And the discount will be roughly stable when more boundings unlocked one by one. This market will be supported by the opposite demand of participants who believes in long-term value of DOT Kusama and who needs cash flow immediately. The Bifrost SALP implementation is an innovative derivative product designed by our team after in-depth investigation of users' needs and researching. In Polkadot, the multi-chain system architecture separates canonicity and validity, which establish a bridge of mutual trust between different consensus systems. Bifrost SALP has the same original intention as the Polkadot. Qualitative transaction feature and differentiated equity feature are divided, which promotes derivative to obtain sufficient liquidity while lowering the barriers for users to participate. We believe the SALP will be creative product in DeFi ecosystem when Polkadot's law auction is officially started. And SALP will be also will be applied for the first time in Bifrost's upcoming Kusama Parachain slot auction. In addition, SALP will establish a derivative market for another utility of DOT and Kusama, Apernon staking and Parachain bounding, as I mentioned in the beginning of my speech. With the utility Parachains who integrates SLP will be advanced in the competition, which will absorb more value for the whole ecology. Okay, that's my speech, and thanks for you listening. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask me a question.
Great to hear. Yeah, we do have some questions for you. Thanks so much for your talk. Let me go to the first question here, which is, can Bifrost implement this before becoming a parachain itself?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, I think. Well, As I mentioned in this presentation, Bifrost developed a VS token palette to create delegating account for Parachains and contributing based on the XMP. So Parachains can issue derivatives through SALP, and users can participate in the slot auction to obtain derivatives for liquidity. But before Parachain become a Parachain, Bifrost become a Parachain, SALP was unable to fully use XAMP for other project, which means we cannot use a palette as a Parachain, right? So it will only support Bifrost slot auctions through the Kusama multisig address. Contributors will record it and release some same quantity of derivatives, since the multisig method needs to be trusted by multisig parties. We will display the multisig records on the Bifrost slot auction page, and to be honest, the reflection of this derivative market on the Parachain bounding is actually quite positive. We've received over 30,000 registration on it, and we are actually look forward to board on the Parachain and provide the SLP for different Parachains in the near future. Thanks for your question.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense, because then you'd be able to implement your own palettes and provide further functionality once you do become a parachain. But so people will be able to participate in the SALP for the first auction?
Yes, of course, they can indeed. They can participate in the Bifrost actually internal SLP, but not supported for other Parachains in the first Parachain bidding. But actually before Bifrost bidding the auction, maybe the first slot or second slot is not Bifrost, it's other Parachain, and they will not be supported because we are not a Parachain. We can't use XALP to create to be backed by a Parachain palette to do the XAMP transaction for the automatically and fully decentralized service for it.
Okay, yeah. And one more question from our audience, which is, how long will the SLP run? Is it 6 months or 2 years?
All right. Actually, it depends. I think they can be separated to two questions. Actually, SLP will be run after Bifrost launched this slot auction, and the VS token and VS bound will keep running with the slot auction. It depends on how long the Parachain will bid the auction. If they bid in Kusama for 48 weeks, which means the VS bound, as I mentioned, VS bound represents the reward of the Parachain. It represents 48 weeks. If the Parachain bid for 12 weeks, it represents the 12 weeks of the Parachain lease period. So yeah, that's the answer.
Thank you so much for your talk, Tyrone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Parity, and thanks all the audience.
Stay tuned, everyone.
Stay tuned. Welcome to follow us, and thanks all again. See you guys.